This is Danny Gallagher from WSJF at St. Joseph Catholic Community. We are very pleased to be producing a new monthly show that is airing on our local radio station. It's called Married and Family Living with the Grasleys, and Al and Linda Grassley, parishioners at St. Joe's, are hosting it. We'll broadcast the show a few times a week over the next month, and we'll let you know when we're going to do it. So without further ado, here's Al and Linda Grassley.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Al Grassley.
And I'm Linda.
I have been married for approximately 22 years. Actually,
just you?
21 years, 10 months, and 4 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd remember that, did you?
No.
We have 2 children, Catherine, 16, and Matthew, 11. We've been members of St. Joe's for 15 years. Many of you may know us from 8 o'clock Mass or from the Knights of Columbus movie night. Linda's in Clo. I'm also did religious ed. We've been around the parish. Hopefully you do know us.
Well, and like Al said, we've done the family movie nights now for a while. How long do you think it's been?
I think it's been about 9 years maybe.
Yeah.
So a lot of pasta.
So that's something that the Knights of Columbus do. And the Knights of Columbus had recognized that this family event has been pretty successful. We get a lot of very nice families in, and many have come into the church or even into the Knights of Columbus. And this year, we were asked to be the domestic church couple.
That sounds very exciting. What exactly is the domestic church couple?
Well, that's what we both asked ourselves, wasn't it? So, so we found out what it was. And essentially, the domestic church is the family. So, to find out a little bit more about it, we asked for the pastoral plan to make sure that whatever we were doing with the domestic church would be in line with the pastoral plan.
That was a real page turner, that document. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you turned any of those pages.
I turned it over so I didn't have to read it.
Well, let me just tell you what was in it and how we line up with it. Essentially, the pastoral plan wants us as a parish to welcome families where they are. And the family movie nights have done that. And, Al and I think of ourselves as Catholic Christians just doing our best. None of us have a perfect marriage or a perfect family, but we should be able to...
We have a perfect marriage, honey.
Thank you, dear. But we should be able to turn to each other as Catholic families. We're not alone in this, and we should never feel that way. The pastoral plan also talks about valuing community life as a parish through various activities and events. So Al and I are coming up with some other events that would be helpful to marriage and families, including this radio show, we hope, and that will help develop spiritual friendships so that we can serve each other. And lastly, it'll allow us to share and learn from each other, from our struggles and challenges, and also encourage and build one another up so as not to be hardened, as St. Paul says.
Right, so it is hopefully the listeners are still with us after that introduction about the domestic church and the pastoral plan. So it is our hope that listeners will find topics about the challenges of marriage and bringing up children helpful and encouraging. Everybody's in this together. Mm-hmm. Linda and I are going to share some stories about our marriage life, about the struggles we went through, and some of the solutions we came up with. It is our hope that listeners will find these topics and challenges that Linda and I have gone through, and hopefully some of the solutions we talk about, helpful and encouraging. And maybe somebody who hears it will say, geez, I'm kind of going through that same thing too. Let me try some of these things. Maybe look on the web and find some other information that helped us.
All right. So this first broadcast, hopefully first of many, is about communication in marriage.
Yes, we had a lengthy conversation about what our first topic should be on the broadcast. Mm-hmm. And we thought communication after a long, lengthy discussion. So communication, Linda and I are a little bit old, and we used to love to watch Seinfeld, and this kind of reminded me when Jerry decided that he wanted to get married to this girl, and then he talked to Kramer, and Kramer's like, you would have no idea what it's like to be married. Well, what's it like? Well, you got to know everything about your day. Well, how was your day? Well, what kind of day was it? Was it a good day? Was it a bad day? Well, how was it? And Lynn and I always laugh about that, and we say that to each
still
other.
say
We
that
still say that to each other.
decades later. Yeah, and some days that seems like our communication,
It
right?
does seem like it. And that's like the, unfortunately, that is society's take on marriage, that it's the ball and chain aspect of being married. Communication, thinking back, we're going to get into it right now, but thinking back 7, 8, maybe 9 years ago, Lynn and I experienced 5 friends who went through a divorce. I should say 5 couple friends who went
within
through
like 4 months of each other, we found out the news that these people that we were quite close with were all giving up. It was pretty shocking.
It was very shocking. And Lynn and I kind of looked at each other like, how are we doing if these couples are getting divorced? And also at that point in time, my father passed away suddenly, so I was really kind of searching for some things. And it was at that point that really we got intentional about our marriage. I consider myself pretty lucky. You know, I married my best friend. We really haven't had too many conflicts, and we always enjoyed each other's company.
Right.
But at that point in time, like I said, we got intentional. I really started digging deep into reading some books. And one of the things that really spurred me on was listening to podcasts to focus on family. They really have some great subjects. Mm-hmm. And after listening to these podcasts, we'd come back and talk to each other about what we heard.
Yeah, you'd listen to it on the way to work or on the way home, and I could listen to it at home. I was listening more for parenting tips, but there's always the marriage ones in there. It would really spur a lot of good conversations between the two of us.
Right, and we felt pretty connected. And during this time also, we really became friends with Deacon Mike. Our daughter Catherine was serving. Deacon Mike was there at 8 o'clock Mass, so we just kind of talked more and more with him. And the next thing you know, he asked us to be on a pre-Cana panel.
Lo and behold, we never knew that we would be helping others. Of course, it really helped us a lot in that season. It happened to be probably one of the toughest times in our marriage. And so we learned a lot, and it made us even more intentional in our marriage.
Yeah, there was a couple times. I have one particular. I remember we pulled into the parking lot, and I'm like, "There's no way we should be here talking about marriage," because we were just aggravating each other. I can't even remember what it was about. I just remember it wasn't very good. But we found out that going to these pre-Cana events and talking about the relationship Lynn and I have and our marriage and how we solve problems, that even just going to the event really kind of softened our hearts, and we became more connected, even if we were having some problems.
Well, we know that God values marriage.
Right, we do. I actually looked up some statistics before we came here, and it's amazing. Now, I was looking for a man's perspective, but a married man, after he marries, makes more money, and he works harder and smarter and is more successful than the person who is not married. There's also the intimacy. And this shocked me. They live longer, up to 10 years longer than the single, which was just shocking to me.
That is amazing.
So that is I think they call it the marriage bonus, but Lynn and I have talked about it. That is the blessing God gives marriage. It makes us better. God wanted us to be married. It reminds me of the Proverbs 18:22. Again, this is a man's perspective. To find a wife is to find happiness, a favor granted by the Lord. So sometimes, I have to be honest, sometimes I don't look upon Linda like that. But most days I do.
When you have to get up in the morning and I'm still in bed.
Yes,
I know.
yes. You know how that is.
Well, we're going to just kind of walk through some of the issues of marriage and how each of these topics change through the stages of our marriage story. And so the bold heading, of course, is communication. When you're first married, you're just like learning the timing of when is a good time to be communicating. Usually when a husband comes home, you probably don't want to.
I personally don't want to get into a deep conversation when I come home.
I learned that. So I learned to take notes of what I want to talk about when I know that he's in a better place to talk about it. We can talk about it later, but still trying to keep the communication regular. And I think probably early on in our marriage, we did not really pray together
No, we didn't.
much.
So then that kind of became the intentional thing. That was one of the things we learned about that. And right now, we're really not praying too much together either.
I know. As we're going through this radio show, which will inspire us to start praying more.
Yes.
I pray a lot for you regularly, but we haven't been praying together. One of the things that we do fairly regularly, a few times a week, is we have breakfast together and we listen to the readings. And,
right.
And
then we talk about on the USCCB.
Catholic bishops, yeah. So that's really nice. And they have a little reflection, kind of a homily, and then we can talk about, if we understood it or not. Well, but how it applies to our life.
Right.
Just like you would going to a mass. It's kind of nice to have the liturgy part of it. So
that would be the key, is trying to find a time that both of you could talk together and get deep if you need to. It's nice when we do it in the morning because the kids aren't up. It's a beautiful time of day. The dog's not up. We're just kind of sitting around. We have a nice breakfast. Linda usually makes me breakfast. It's very nice.
Well, you make me breakfast too.
That's true.
Yeah, so early on too, you have these little quirks that bring communication into it.
Communication or conflict.
Conflict.
So one of our first conflicts was differences in cleaning, which was kind of shocking, really. Linda was very concerned about the bathroom. The bathroom's got to be spotless. Where myself, I'm like, look, no one's going in our bathroom. How about we just make sure the kitchen's clean? So there was just conflict over that.
I would like asking for things. You would go to the refrigerator to get an apple and never ask me if I wanted one. Whereas in his family, you didn't, you would ask, like, Al, get me an apple.
Right. If you're at the refrigerator and you wanted something, you would say, hey, how about an apple? Yeah. Linda's family, somebody would ask.
Your family would be more like a beer.
It's true. It would be a beer. So, and that's kind of funny, too, because I think we kind of worked that out just because we've been married for almost 22 years. We realize what the other person wants. But we have kids who are playing out the same differences right now, which is very funny.
One is one way and one is the other.
Right. But, so the conflict continues to the next generation.
Yeah. We call those quirks. So, yeah. We did go through one of the books we read was the 5 love languages, because communication is more than verbal. We find out I'm acts of service. I love acts of service, and you bless me every day with making a pot of coffee.
And of course, emptying the dishwasher.
Right. I start my day with a cup of coffee and a unloaded dishwasher. That is just huge for me. That communicates great love to me. Right.
So the 5 love languages, that was really an excellent book. It really opened up my eyes into how to make you feel loved. Mm-hmm. And really, it's been very helpful. And it's actually helped with the kids, too, because the kids also have love languages. And if you recognize, both kids are totally different in our family, and I'm sure that's just the way it is. But you can approach each kid differently to their love language. It just makes the world a difference.
Yeah. Keeping this communication regular throughout and being very intentional, whether you're going on dates or having breakfast or whatever it is important, because we don't want to lose each other, because later in life when your kids are gone, then you won't even know how to communicate what your interests are.
Right. The busyness of everyday life, your communication with your spouse could get lost. Right. And that kind of goes back to the intentionality of you and I spending time together. And I don't want you to think that every morning we have a nice breakfast together. Like you said, it's probably 2 or 3 times.
Or a nice long conversation.
Or a nice long conversation.
Okay, I got to go to work. The traffic's getting bad. But
exactly.
Yeah, we try. We do try.
We do try.
Well, another thing with communicating is defining household roles. We married very late, and we're somewhat set in our ways and the way we did things in our home. But we didn't have kids for a while. We had a lot of difficulty having kids. So the first stage of our marriage was very different. We split up household chores pretty much equally. We had 2 bank accounts that we fed into, and
I think we had 3 bank accounts or something. It was ridiculous.
You did bills, and
yes.
I did budget, and you did garage and yard, and I did. Well, we shared cooking and cleaning, and I mowed. It wasn't like we did the traditional roles to start. So we really had to learn the art and skill of communicating and listening, and
So yeah, right. So probably the
how
big.
we wanted to split it up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. So one of the things that maybe a newly married couple would have problems with is where to go for the holidays. Like, am I going to your parents' house for Christmas? Are we going over here for Thanksgiving? And when we've done the pre-Cana panel, it seemed like everybody who was just about to get married was very concerned about this. And I would tell you to just make sure you have a conversation with your wife or your husband before you decide what you're going to do. And I would also say that you're going to figure it out. After 1 year, it's going to be figured out. You're either going to figure out this didn't work, or this did work,
right.
And you'll change it up the next year. I mean, and hopefully your spouse's parents or husband's parents are very...
We had it easy because our family holidays were kind of already divvied up.
Right.
Alternate. I think we had a little adjustment, but it wasn't really too bad. But
Exactly.
so you have roles and pressures as you go through these stages. We have mid-marriage, we decided to homeschool our kids, and it was very, very stressful for me. Al was telling everybody how great it was going.
It was great.
He clearly did not communicate with me how it was going, but he told everybody else how great it was, if he only could have been a fly on the wall. But I will say he communicated a lot of encouragement for me. I think homeschool moms doubt so much that, are they doing the right thing or not? He didn't try and solve our problems. He just supported us and encouraged us and stepped in when asked, and still does. So
Right. And I would say that your wife needs words of praise when she's doing something. And you have to be supportive. And I didn't really realize that. I was listening to a podcast, and it was very interesting. This guy said that your wife needs support, and he went back to the story of Adam and Eve with the snake, and the snake was questioning what Eve said. Really? Did God really say that? And I was like, wow. They have doubt. They put doubt in women's minds, and I just have to be supportive of that.
So with roles changing too, finances, we had a change from both of us, dual income with the 3 accounts and all the spending. And no idea where the money went.
We still don't know. We're still looking for it.
Right. To the single income and budgeting under one account and one income. So
that was a little different because Linda took over the budget. I think I called you the budget Nazi.
Yeah, maybe. That might have been. That sounds right.
Linda's very detail orientated, very like, where's this going? This is what you need. I'm kind of like, well, we're doing all right. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say I'm not a spender, but I don't want to get that. I don't want to spend time looking at that. Yeah. But then a funny thing happened. We moved down here, and then I had to take over the bills because I'm like, I got to see where the money's going, because it just seemed like we never had any money.
Right.
So
yeah, when you took over, I really got concerned because you just had a different way of looking at it. It wasn't even really, you were more relaxed about the spending than I am, but we're really not that far off there. It was just you had a different way of looking at it.
It's kind of funny. We had Excel spreadsheets, and Linda had an Excel spreadsheet from when she did the bills.
For years.
And then she's like, oh yeah, just use this. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. This looks just crazy. So I had to make my own spreadsheet, and that took quite a while. Mm-hmm. So I would say if anybody's struggling with that, one of the best websites we found out to make an easy budget was everydollar.com, and there's a free side to it, and we still use that today.
Yeah, we sit down every month and just kind of go through that together.
Right.
And we also went to a financial planner to give me a little comfort.
Right, so Linda kept on bugging me. Are we going to have enough to retire? When are we going to retire? You need to work harder, Al. Maybe you should get another job. I think it was something like that. I think it was something like that. And I think after a couple of podcasts and after reading some books, I'm like, okay, now I know why Linda's worried about this. And we went out and we got a financial planner to take a look at our finances and come up with some kind of plan. And did that put you at ease?
It did.
So basically, I hired somebody to say exactly what I've been telling her for the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Okay, yeah.
But it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was good. It was good.
It was good for both of us, really.
It's good for both of us.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, and then the last segment was our tough times. I think our toughest times came around the time I was going through our CIA. I'm a convert. Yes, I'm a convert. We found a really wonderful parish, St. Vincent's, when we lived in New York State. It was a very tight community, and
it was just like the parish you grew up in. That's why I liked it so much.
well, it was huge. They had 260 families there.
That was a big deal.
I grew up with 30 families in my parish, so, but it was a very tight community. So, but we had gone through infertility for several years, and Al's parents, my mom and his mom, were both ill at the same time, and we lost his mom in 2000.
And then we had a kid, and then I lost my job right after we had Catherine. I should say right after
I left my job.
Right after Linda left her job was the 2008. No, was it
2003?
2003. Mm-hmm. That was very exciting. I will say Linda was very supportive about me getting a job. It's a little bit different when you're a single income dad or husband. There's just a little bit more pressure on you. Luckily, we had such a good budget under Linda's guidance that we had a lot of money. I shouldn't say a lot of money, but we did have some savings, and we really didn't owe too much money, so there was some room to breathe there.
But after 8 months, we had to make a choice of leaving our families and going to Boise, Idaho, which, how do you even get there?
90 west. Or San Diego, which was extremely far.
Sounds nice and sunny.
It sounds nice.
But we settled on Maryland because we could drive to see our family. And but you felt very guilty about that. And all I could do as a wife is just encourage you that it's okay. You know, we're a family and we're going to do this. And we settled, and it was great, you know, and it was a great Christmas day.
Yes,
I got lots of nice gifts.
Linda got a little bit too many gifts that Christmas.
But I guess the hardest part was the large parish here because, I didn't really know what large parish was until we got here. So
right,
we were really blessed with the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah, so
that reduced it.
Yeah, so I got down here, and I think, just a couple years after I got down here, my dad died unexpectedly. So I was, so I kind of was reaching out for a father mentor, I guess is what you want to say. And luckily I found the Knights of Columbus. It was very nice. I've been the member there since 2008.
Mm-hmm. That was a rough time for us communicating too, because I couldn't help you. I have both of my parents.
Linda still has both her parents, and that was the second loss. So I didn't have, and they're both very different. It's very interesting on that situation. And it was very hard for me to communicate. I'm sure most people know that men really don't like communicating about their feelings. I know it's hard to believe. You know, through these tough times, Lynn and I supported each other and kind of came through each other. And really, we've been closer because of these tough times and more stronger. I should say, not more stronger.
Likes to add more there.
You know.
Well, you know, the White family.
Tom and Val.
Tom and Val White love this visual of the triangle with God at the top and the spouses on either corner. And as you get closer to God, you also get closer to your spouse. And that's been very clear in our lives that when we've gone through tough times, such as moving or job loss or loss of family or infertility, we always turn to God, and it does make us closer, for sure.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit difficult too, because my dad passed away, and I had Catherine, and I had to be the dad, and
both, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little difficult for me. I was angry. I'll just say that I was angry.
You made it through. You made it through, babe. All right. Well.
All right. So that's our show. We want to talk a little bit about some lessons we continue to learn. Obviously, it's be intentional. Mm-hmm. Make time to talk and pray regularly. Like we said, mornings, breakfast, readings, date nights, walks. We do date nights once in a while.
Mm-hmm. When the kids were younger, we had another family, and we would swap kids. We'd buy pizza and drop our kids off with the family, and go out on a date for an hour or two, and then the next month they do the same. So there's lots of creative ways you can do that. Investing time, just preparing to talk and solve problems. Like I said, I still kind of do a list of topics either on my phone or a notebook to save for discussion. We do podcasts, books, articles for discussion. We also recently discovered a website called foryourmarriage.org. It's a Catholic resource, and they have information on everything. It's amazing. A lot of bloggers and articles that are really, really helpful. Lots of resources there.
Yeah, it's kind of nice too, because that website is just like people like us, basically, who are like inspired to write and inspired to share, and maybe have different ways for you to look at things. And the one article I read was like really made me appreciate you more.
Oh,
so
thanks, baby.
And it's nice when somebody else is doing it. You think to yourself, when you read about the article and it's somebody who's relating to his wife, you think, well, I should say that to my wife. So, so I guess if you are going through a struggle, I would think we ask you to seek guidance or mentors or models, or if you're really struggling, look for another married couple. Linda and I are usually at the 8 o'clock Mass if you want to come up, and we'll be happy to have a cup of coffee and a donut with you up at the church.
Or something more private.
Something more private.
Anytime.
Also, trusted friends. I mean, I kind of have a group of guys that I would say we go out maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and we get kind of serious. There's 2 friends. One guy, let's call him Bill. I see him a couple times a month, and we really ask each other, how's your family doing? How you doing? Stuff like that. Yeah. And it's very encouraging, especially when it's another guy. And the women, usually, they always get together and talk. And if things are going really bad, I would suggest, go to a pastor or a marriage counselor.
Marriage-friendly counselor. And then just check in with other married couples. Like I said, we were pretty much slammed with we just had no idea what was going on. But it just reveals that none of us is immune from tough times. We're human, we're flawed, but we need to be there for each other and make sure that our marriages are successful and that we're living the good life. And
the good Catholic life.
Yeah, okay. Good Christian Catholic life. I like it. So on our next broadcast, we would like to address the impact of a full life. We all know about our schedules.
What did we talk about the next subject here? Because I don't remember this conversation.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it. It was on my list.
Are you sure?
Yeah. But full life of schedules. We kind of live for our schedules, but also tackling the issues of living in the digital age. That has become very overwhelming for many of us. If you have any ideas, comments about the broadcast, we have an email, thegrasleysradio@gmail.com. And also I wanted to put a plug in for a new group that's forming. I believe it'll be starting September 26th for moms of young children, elementary and middle school, called Next Talk. You've got to check this out. It's a small group of moms that are scared about these tough subjects that your kids are or will be exposed to, including cyberbullying, cell phones, social media, screen addiction, suicide, dress codes, child stress and anxiety. It'll help you tackle these issues. We'll be meeting once a month on Wednesday evenings for educational videos, conversation, and fellowship. Again, September 26th. Watch the bulletin for that. And then we will be doing on our regular movie night, October 13th, a movie called Screenagers. And that is about living in the digital age, the dangers of the kids and us with excessive screens. So be looking for that on October 13th.
And this is all part of the domestic church.
Yes, it is.
So we're happy to be here. We hope we have some fans out there. And until next time, remember that these are the days.
Thanks again to Linda and Al Grassley for hosting our show, Married and Family Living with the Grassleys. Don't forget that you can contact the Grassleys with questions or comments about the show at thegrassleysradio@gmail.com. We'll be putting the times that this show will air on the radio, and we'll also be putting it on our Facebook page, WSJF 92.7 FM. Make sure you like our Facebook page. Until next time, may God bless you and your family.